The Fallout series has been an ongoing series for over 24 years now. Ever since the first Fallout game was released back in the end of 1997, the franchise has went through some major changes, minor falls, and even an exchange of hands. But through this time, the game series has been rich with minor details and facts that help bring the said world alive. Today we're going to try something a little bit different. Today, I'll be offloading a barrage of useless facts surrounding the Fallout series. This video will also feature some small cameos here and there from a variety of Fallout YouTubers and Twitch streamers. So sit back and enjoy 15 minutes of useless Fallout facts. Before this video starts, I'd just like to remind everyone that subbing to the channel is a free way to support the channel. It lets me know what type of content you guys enjoy, and also lets you guys know when a new video goes live. With that being said, let's get straight into the video. Now, let's start off with something that's most likely new to a majority of the people watching this video. A game like Fallout New Vegas is filled with thousands upon thousands of sound effects, but one of the rarest sound effects featured in the game is one that resides closely to the grave markers you can find across the world of New Vegas. There is nothing special about these graves themselves, but they do have a small sound file pool called EMT Grave tied to them. The pool consists of 9 ghastly whispers that play with a 2% recurring chance when standing next to any grave. In the early days of Fallout New Vegas, players would mention hearing creepy noises throughout the game, and it kind of became a theory going around back in the day that some games were haunted. That is not true, however a lot of people actually wrote this off as just bad fanfiction or an attempt at a creepypasta. But no, these sound effects are actually real, and will have a 2% chance of playing when you stand near any grave. The best place to hear this is that of Goodspring Cemetery, where there are several graves lying around. If you turn down your volume sliders and keep the sound effects at max, you can probably faintly hear a creepy noise or two. However, the graves aren't the only items that emit strange sounds at random in the world of New Vegas, as the non-collectible Hulu girls also emit a strangely electronic song that is all too familiar. Also, the dino toys across the Mojave give off a neat little roar. In both Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, if you shift-click the credits from the main menu, you'll be treated to some naughty messages left behind by the development team. While developing Fallout 2, the devs of the game made a debug tool for resetting reputation, followers, and affiliations throughout the game. Instead of making what is simply a console tool or even a pop-up menu, the developers of Fallout 2 decided to make this debug tool an NPC. An NPC by the name of Chet. Obviously, anyone who's played New Vegas will recognize the name of Chet being the vendor within Goodsprings, another intentional nod to the franchise that Obsidian made in Fallout New Vegas. In Fallout 3, there exists a mailbox that is placed near the town of Springvale. This mailbox is probably one of the first things the player will encounter, and resides in the first pre-war town the player will ever come across. Inside this mailbox is a few hand grenades. Nothing special, but a bit out of the ordinary. Well, in Fallout 4, a nearly identical scenario is replicated once again. As you are exiting Sanctuary, there is a trash can that does look like a mailbox that does contain 2 grenades. Obviously, Sanctuary is the first pre-war settlement you'll come across, and this is eerily identical to Fallout 3. I have no idea why this is the case or what this is a reference to, but I can almost guarantee that we will see the exact same thing happen in Fallout 5.
New Vegas's In Shining Armor perk has never worked the way that it was supposed to. According to the description, the perk reduces damage from energy weapons when you wear metal armor. But the game parameter which the perk looks for is just called energy, when the actual parameter is energy weapons. So it's quite literally a useless perk.
There are over 500 different kinds of junk items in Fallout 4 that are found both littered on the ground as well as purchased directly from junk vendors. But even though the broom can be found in many different locations, did you know that it's one of the only junk items that's never actually sold by anyone? The fact that Percy the vendor in Diamond City makes a joke about having a sale on brooms makes this even more odd.
We're having a sale on brooms! Oh no, wait, my programming is telling me we never have sales. Maybe you should buy something else.
With the original Fallout, there was a few regional restrictions put in place across Europe. For example, if you bought Fallout in Europe for both Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, then the majority of children in the game simply wouldn't exist. Well, that's not entirely true. The children in Fallout 1 and 2 are actually just invisible in the EU versions of the game, having their sprites simply replaced by an empty image. Another cool regional difference was that of the United Kingdom, a difference that would actually stick across the entire franchise later down the line. See, in the late 90s, the United Kingdom was going through somewhat of a war on drugs in media, and any reference to drugs in video games was seen as abhorrent. So to get the game licensed and sold within the UK, all words containing drug references were simply changed to that of the word chems, something that would somewhat become standard for the later Fallout games. Whenever you find a dead Brahmin in Fallout New Vegas, there will always be a plethora of small flies that surround its body. Did you know that these small flies are just low-poly bloat flies? Outside of Galaxy News Radio exists this small statue of a globe with 2 rockets orbiting it. This is a nod towards Interplay, the original developers of the Fallout series.
In Fallout 3 in New Vegas, you can crouch next to Brahmin, and if you're unarmed or your weapon is holstered, then you can interact with them to tip them. And in Fallout 3, if you do it repeatedly, there's a chance the Brahmin might die, but if that happens, no one will get mad. In Fallout 2, if you use the push command on a Brahmin, which is like the palm icon, then it will tip them. And in Fallout 1, you can use a beer on Brahmin, and it will tip them because it makes them feel tipsy.
Did you know in Fallout 4 you can travel to Diamond City and go to the bar known as the Dugout Inn to find Todd Howard riding a white stallion? This is obviously a recreation of the famous artwork of Napoleon riding into battle. Now this is the only place in-game where you can actually find this artwork, besides placing it yourself at one of your settlements.
The small statuette from Fallout 2 is a novelty item that you can find in the game, but this item was actually in Fallout 1. However, in Fallout 1, it was an unused item that was impossible for the player to obtain. Why it was in the original Fallout, we still don't know, but it is speculated that the 3D statue is the first ever 3D embodiment of the Vault Boy that has become very familiar with the Fallout series. In Fallout 3, inside Megaton exists Moriarty's saloon. He is most likely one of the first NPCs that the player will encounter. But if you manage to kill Moriarty and leave Gob alive, then the ghoul will start running the saloon himself. Nothing much will actually change here, except from the fact that the sign outside will be changed.
In the game files for classic Fallout, you can find a fun Easter egg that is totally useless. Viewing the files with small thumbnails will show the standard Vault Boy image next to the launchers. But if we change to medium-sized thumbnails, the pictures will change to the face of Tim Kaine, one of the creators of Fallout. And this also applies to Fallout 2.
The devs of Fallout 1 wanted to use I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire by the Ink Spots as the game's main theme, but couldn't secure the rights at the time, settling instead for Maybe by the same artist. 11 years later, Bethesda used the song for Fallout 3's opening. Everyone tends to agree that Fallout 2's Temple of Trials is an awful start for the game, which caused a lot of people to drop the tutorial before they even made it to the good stuff. The truth is that the temple initially wasn't even going to be in the game, but Interplay demanded that there be a tutorial level, so Black Isle Studios added the level just before the game released. Good one, Interplay.
In New Vegas, close to the Monte Carlo Suites, you can find a soul house standing around some rubble and destroyed buildings. This house has a unique interaction, being that of a pipe bomb placed within its mailbox. Getting close to the mailbox will initiate its trigger, giving you a brief window to disarm it. A lot of people online claim to have found more than one of these within New Vegas, but I could only find the one near the Monte Carlo suite. If you do find any more, please let me know. As far as I'm concerned, there is only one of these within New Vegas, with them originating from Fallout 3, where the rig mailbox was a little bit more commonplace. Also, let's take a second to appreciate how misplaced this door is. In Fallout 3, there exists an achievement labeled The Bigger They Are, which sees the player kill all 5 super mutant behemoths across the wasteland. Well, funnily enough, in Fallout 4, there's a similar achievement that finishes this old proverb off, called The Harder They Fall, which is given to the player for eliminating 5 giant creatures across the Commonwealth, an achievement duo that was 7 years in the making.
In the Fallout games, there are many different unique weapons scattered throughout the world. One of the more interesting weapons is the AER-14 prototype found in Vault 22. This weapon has a sticky note on the back, which is real laser physics, which Joshua Sawyer, the lead designer, did research and consulting with a friend with experience in laser physics. The sticky note says focus 1064 nanometers of fundamental wavelength, 532 nanometers of second harmonic generation, making the laser look green, and 8.18 picometers the rate at which the beam dissipates.
This next Fallout fact brings us back all the way into Fallout 4. So here we are in the Megaton settlement, and there's a lot of curious and peculiar NPCs around. Perhaps none more peculiar than Easy Pete sitting over there. His whole job is to just be useless and sit there in a chair in his hat. But the reason he's called Easy Pete is because he's really easy to kill. Do this early game for a lot of good XP.
In Fallout 3, there exists a few bits of leftover placeholder dialogue, some of which was voice acted by Todd Howard himself, who was known to do this back in the early days of Bethesda.
Surprise! Happy birthday!
And others were fully compiled and edited voice files of important characters, like for example, Liberty Prime.
Placeholder 10. Placeholder 12.
There is a neat little hidden diner above Diamond City that most people assume you can only reach with the Power Armor jetpack. This isn't actually true. If you have a single jet, you can actually make it up here without glitches or the jetpack at all. Simply head out east of Diamond City, around to the parking lot, and head up the scaffolding along the side. From here, enter the opposing building that has a few booby traps laid about, and make your way to the top. Once at the top, simply pop the jet and jump back across to the other opposing building, on which you can simply run and jump across to the top of Diamond City. Inside this little cafe is a dead settler and a lone mini-nuke, with an armor crafting bench. Pretty cool. In the quest Ghost Town gunfight, you can recruit Victor to the fight alongside you against the Powder Gangers.
Trouble with rustlers, huh? Count me in, partner. Those varmints will be running home with their tails between their legs soon enough.
However, when the fight actually occurs, he will be overwritten from Mr. House and will be unable to attend the fight.
Really? I must have dozed off. Although that's never happened before. Override? That can't be right. Probably just a malfunctioning tube somewhere.
An early glimpse into the control that Mr. House has over New Vegas.
Travel Light is a perk in New Vegas that increases your movement speed by 10% when wearing light armor. But what if I told you that there's actually a couple of medium armors that also gain this benefit? You see, this perk checks a reference list called NV Travel Light Bad Armor List. It's a list of all armors in the game that will not be affected by this perk. For whatever reason, there's actually 2 sets of armor missing from this list. The Combat Armor Reinforced Mark II, and the Lightweight Metal Armor from the Mercenary Pack DLC. Wearing either of these armors if you've taken the Travel Light perk will result in you being almost 10% faster than if you were to wear any other medium armor in the game.
Since the event of the bombs dropping in the Fallout verse, people took to using bottle caps for the standard currency, as it's pretty difficult to replicate them thanks to most of the technology lost during the Great War. What makes a bottle cap genuine is the paint used, the machining process, and the type of metal. It is now common currency in the Fallout franchise by player and PCs alike, but caps themselves would first be adopted as currency 16 years after the bombs fell and once the hub had been established for over a decade in the year 2093. The merchants in the hub established the cap as their own currency as they backed it with water, and the cap itself as an economy in the wasteland was born. All in all, the bottle cap's a humble thing and has a much bigger impact than you might think on the game, unless you purchase all the wacky and wonderful things, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon.
And for the final fact of the day, while completing the quest talent pool, which sees the player find a total of 4 separate entertainers for the Tops Casino, if you were to come back to the New Vegas Strip at any time, you would find that the Tops Casino's marquee will be updated with the corresponding talents you've found, with the list becoming more and more stacked as the player progresses. This is but one of the many Fallout facts that exist in the Fallout universe, and I've probably missed a whole lot. So feel free to comment down below your favorite Fallout facts that intrigue you, and as always, a huge thank you to everybody that took part in this video and helped me with this project. Everybody featured in this video will be linked down below, so make sure to check them out because there are some really good Fallout and non-Fallout content creators in this video. Once again, thank you guys for watching. As always, more content to come, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.